The Kraken, the sea monster that terrorized the seas. 1. Origin of the myth. The Kraken is one of the most fascinating legends to emerge from Scandinavian culture, a true symbol of maritime imagery. Its origins are believed to date back to the 17th century, when sailors began telling stories about a colossal creature that inhabited the depths of the ocean. The name Kraken comes from the Norwegian, where it means sea monster or octopus. These tales, often exaggerated, were a way of explaining the mysteries of the sea and the dangers that sailors faced. At that time, sailing was an extremely risky activity. The unknown was always lurking, and the Kraken became the personification of this fear. The first descriptions of the Kraken spoke of a being that resembled a giant octopus with long tentacles that could wrap around an entire ship. This image alone was enough to strike fear into the hearts of sailors. Every voyage to sea became a dance with the unknown, and the Kraken was the specter that could emerge at any moment, bringing destruction. Over the centuries, the myth spread across the coasts of Norway, Sweden, and Denmark, being told and retold, taking on new life with each generation that heard the stories of their ancestors. So when we talk about the origin of the Kraken myth, we are not just discussing a legendary creature. We are exploring human interactions with the sea, nature, and ultimately ourselves. In every story about the Kraken, there is a lesson about life, and it is this wisdom that continues to fascinate and inspire people around the world, even centuries after these stories were first told. 2. Appearance. When we talk about the appearance of the Kraken, it is fascinating to imagine how this creature became one of the most feared of the seas. It is often depicted as a gigantic octopus or a colossal squid, with long, muscular tentacles that can reach tens of meters in length. This is almost terrifying to imagine, a monster the size of a ship, with arms that twist and stretch, ready to grab any vessel that dares to sail its waters. For many, the Kraken represents a force of nature, a being that is both beautiful and terrifying. The description of the tentacles is especially striking. They are often depicted as being capable of wrapping around an entire ship, pulling it into the depths of the ocean. This powerful image makes us reflect on the insignificance of human beings in the face of the vastness of the sea. When you look at the waves, have you ever stopped to think about how many mysterious creatures inhabit these deep waters? The idea of a Kraken lurking in the shadows of the seabed is what makes this legend so intriguing. So the appearance of the Kraken goes far beyond its physical descriptions. It is a symbol that provokes us to think about our own emotions and fears, while reminding us of the beauty and mystery that the natural world offers us. It is an invitation to explore the unknown with an open mind, even if it means facing our greatest fears. 3. Stories of attacks. The stories of Kraken attacks are fascinating and full of mystery. Legend has it that this immense sea monster emerged from the depths of the ocean with one purpose: to drag ships to the bottom of the sea, leading sailors to certain death. This story permeated the lives of sailors, especially during the age of exploration, when the seas were still unknown and terrifying territory. Imagine, for a moment, being in a small boat, surrounded by the immensity of the ocean, and listening to the stories of colleagues who claim to have seen this colossal being. The tension and fear were palpable. Many sailors said that the Kraken appeared like a storm in the calm waters. The accounts varied, but the essence was the same. The monster approached silently, submerged until, with a devastating movement of its tentacles, it attacked the ships. It was as if the sea, which should be the source of life and sustenance, had been transformed into a battlefield. It is hard not to be moved by these stories that reflect deep and ancient fears. Moreover, these attacks were not only about the physical destruction of the ships, they also symbolized the fear of the unknown. At its core, what the Kraken represented was a force of nature that was beyond human control. This idea resonated greatly at a time when science still did not have the answers to many natural phenomena. When we look at these narratives, we see an attempt to understand and make sense of events that were, more often than not, inexplicable. Therefore, when we talk about stories of Kraken attacks, we are, in fact, discussing an essential aspect of human nature. the desire to understand and confront our fears. The deepest, the Kraken, with its threatening shadow, teaches us the importance of respecting the forces of life and the need to be prepared to face whatever fate has in store for us. Foe, literary inspiration. The Kraken, this colossal and enigmatic creature, has transcended legends and become a rich and fascinating source of inspiration for literature over the centuries. What amazes me is how such an ancient myth still manages to resonate with the modern imagination. The sea monster, with its tentacles that seem to touch the sky, is not only a symbol of fear and mystery, but also an invitation to explore the depths of the human soul. One of the first literary records we find about the Kraken is in the work of the English poet Alfred Lord Tennyson, who in 1850 wrote about the monster in a poem called The Kraken. He describes the Kraken as a creature that inhabits the depths of the sea, patiently waiting to rise to the surface, where sailors, in their naivety, might cross its path. Tennyson captures the essence of what the Kraken represents, the unknown and that which lies beyond the reach of human understanding. When reading his words, it is almost as if we can sense the atmosphere of mystery and fear that surrounded the sailors of the time. So when thinking about the Kraken, let us remember that it is more than just a mythological creature. It is a powerful symbol that teaches us about the duality of human beings, the incessant search for knowledge, and the inevitable struggle against the unknown. With this, the Kraken remains alive in our imaginations, always ready to surprise us and challenge us to explore what lies beyond, both in the sea and within ourselves. Popular beliefs. During the age of exploration, belief in the existence of the Kraken was so strong that many sailors reported encounters with this legendary creature. Imagine yourself, for a moment, on a ship adrift in the middle of a stormy sea, surrounded by an oppressive silence, broken only by the sound of the waves and the wind. The darkness of night can be terrifying, and it's easy to see how a sailor might interpret a shadow on the horizon as the presence of the Kraken. When confronted with the unknown, the human imagination tends to create narratives that explain the inexplicable. Most sailors were simple men, accustomed to natural challenges, but they were also extremely superstitious. They tended to attribute unexplained events to supernatural forces. When a ship disappeared without a trace or a storm arose out of nowhere, the blame was often placed on the Kraken. This sea monster became a symbol of everything they could not control. The human mind is fascinating, isn't it? It seeks answers and often creates myths that help explain the reality we do not fully understand. Stories about the Kraken were told in taverns and on the docks, passed down from generation to generation. The story of a sailor who, in a moment of bravery, faced the Kraken and survived, could become a legend that inspired others to brave the sea. These stories not only fueled fear, but also served as a rite of passage, solidifying the sailors' identity as fearless men. In short, the folklore surrounding the Kraken is a testament to the power of imagination and the human need to find meaning in an often chaotic and unpredictable world. This connection between humans and the mystery of the sea continues to resonate in our culture, showing that even in modern times, we are still fascinated by stories that connect us to our past and our deepest fears. 6. Possible explanations. When we talk about the Kraken, we can't help but consider the possible explanations surrounding this fascinating myth. In many cases, the line between reality and fantasy is quite blurred, especially when it comes to sea creatures. Sometimes, stories that seem absurd at first glance can have roots in real events or misunderstood observations. Let's explore this with a deeper look. An interesting aspect is that throughout history, sailors have reported sightings of enormous creatures in the sea. These experiences often resulted in descriptions that resembled what we now know as the Kraken. Imagine a group of men in a small boat in the middle of the ocean, surrounded by a vast void. Loneliness and fear can easily distort perception. Often, what appears to be a shadow in the water could very well be a giant squid or even a whale. These animals, due to their impressive size, could have given rise to the idea of a monster that dragged boats into the depths. An example that can illustrate this is the giant squid, a being that really exists and that can reach immense sizes. Recent researchers have revealed that these creatures can be up to 14 meters long. When a sailor saw one of these squids, confusion and fear could lead him to believe that he was in front of the Kraken itself. The lack of knowledge about marine fauna at that time meant that many of the creatures were seen as threats, fueling stories that would become legends. In short, the possible explanations for the legend of the Kraken invite us to reflect on how human stories and experiences shape our understanding of the world. This mythical monster, which may have originated from real sightings, teaches us that the unknown can be both terrifying and fascinating. It reminds us of the beauty and danger that inhabit the depths of life and the sea. Part 7. Modern popular culture. The Kraken, this legendary sea monster, continues to make waves in contemporary popular culture. Its presence extends across various media, such as films, series, games, and literature, keeping alive the fascination that it exerts over us. I believe that this connection with the figure of the Kraken makes us reflect on the unknown, on our fears, and on the immensity of the sea, which has always been a mysterious and unexplored territory. One of the most notable examples of the Kraken's presence in modern culture is the film Pirates of the Caribbean. In this series, the monster is portrayed as a colossal creature that emerges from the depths to devour entire ships and crews. This image of the Kraken as a voracious monster is an interpretation that, although dramatic, captures the essence of what sailors feared centuries ago. Ultimately, what these films do is revive the ancestral fear that many of us still carry regarding the sea. In addition, the Kraken also appears in video games, such as Sea of Thieves, where it becomes not only an adversary, but an exciting and challenging experience for players. This interactivity provides a new way of experiencing the legend, allowing people to feel part of this narrative. Through battles against the Kraken, players face not only a monster, but also their own fears and challenges, reflecting the eternal struggle of human beings against the unknown. Finally, the Kraken, as a symbol of the unknown, invites us to look into our own depths. It reminds us that, despite our technological and scientific advancement, there is always something beyond what we can see and understand. Therefore, when we encounter this legendary creature in modern popular culture, we are called to reflect on our fears and on the beauty of the mystery that the sea still holds. The Kraken teaches us that the unknown, although intimidating, can also be a source of inspiration and adventure. 8. Symbolism. The Kraken, this mythical creature that fascinates and terrifies, goes far beyond its simple representation as a sea monster. It symbolizes the unknown, a reflection of human fears regarding the sea, which has always been seen as a vast and enigmatic territory. When I look at the image of the Kraken, I realize that it encapsulates the anxieties and mysteries that surround the ocean depths, where sunlight can barely penetrate. The vastness of the ocean is, in fact, a space that provokes ambivalent feelings. On the one hand, it is a source of beauty, life, and resources. On the other hand, it is an unexplored territory, full of dangers and uncertainties. The Kraken, therefore, becomes a powerful metaphor for these conflicting feelings. It is not only a monster to be feared, it also represents our own uncertainties and vulnerabilities. Throughout history, the sea has been a symbol of freedom, but also of futility, where many have sought treasure and ended up losing their lives. This monster is not only a fixture in horror stories, it forces us to face what we do not know, to reflect on our own limitations. The Kraken can be seen as a warning about the dangers of unbridled exploration, whether at sea or in life in general. When we venture into uncharted waters, we need to be aware of the risks, of the possibility of drowning in our own dreams and ambitions. It is a reminder that oftentimes what we seek can come at a cost. So when we think of the Kraken and what it represents, we are invited to explore not only the world around us, but also the depths of our own souls. The beauty and danger it symbolizes are a constant reminder that life is a journey full of mystery, and it is up to us to decide how we navigate it.